For a long time, I thought my problem was visibility. I thought I needed better content, better captions, better reach, better engagement. But what I didn't realize at the time was this. I wasn't unclear because I wasn't working hard enough. I was unclear because I didn't actually know who I was talking to anymore. And when you don't know who you're creating for, everything feels heavier. Content feels harder. Selling feels awkward. And even the parts of your business you love can start to feel forced. So today, we're talking about dream customer clarity. Not in a demographic, marketing buzzword kind of way, but in a grounded, human, real-life way. Because knowing who you're creating for doesn't just help you sell. It helps you build something you actually want to keep showing up for. Hey friend, and welcome back to Sparkle and Shine. I'm Cassandra, your creative biz bestie, and I'm really glad you're here today. This podcast is for creative women who want to build businesses with intention, confidence, and heart without burning themselves out in the process. I use my own business, Pretty Pineapple Bead, as my teaching ground here. Not because I've done everything perfectly, but because real experience teaches lessons that theory never will. And this episode is an important one. So before we talk about branding, before we talk about niche, before we talk about visibility or sales, we need to talk about who you're actually building this business for. Let's start with talking about when your dream customer clarity is missing. So here's what dream customer confusion usually looks like in real life. Your messaging feels vague. Your content feels like you're talking at people instead of with them. Engagement is inconsistent or quiet. And you start wondering if maybe the problem is you. For a long time, that's exactly how things felt for me. I knew I made colorful jewelry. I knew I cared about confidence and creativity. But my messaging often sounded broad, safe, general, polite. And when your message is vague, it doesn't offend anyone, but it also doesn't deeply connect with anyone either. I wasn't speaking to a real person anymore. I was speaking to an imaginary potential customer. And that disconnect showed up everywhere, in my content, in my energy, in how hard it felt to show up consistently. Not because I didn't care, but because I wasn't rooted in who I was serving. After acknowledging the dream customer confusion, here are some of the moments that brought clarity back for me. So, dream customer clarity didn't come back to me through analytics. It came back through real people. One of the clearest moments was a DIY bead bar party I had hosted that included 3 generations of women, a mom, a daughter, a granddaughter. They sat together, laughed together, created together. They played with color. They expressed themselves freely. They encouraged each other's creativity. And the energy in that room was undeniable. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't transactional. It was connected. That was a moment where I thought, this is it. This is what I want to create more of. Another moment came through a custom order. A customer had told me she had literally dreamed about my necklaces. She trusted me to help bring her vision to life. We collaborated back and forth, colors, shapes, meaning, and every interaction felt exciting, aligned, and easy. She wasn't just buying jewelry. She was connecting to the process. Those moments reminded me of something important. My dream customer isn't defined by an age or an income or location. She's defined by how she feels when she interacts with my work. And when I look at those aligned moments, the pattern is pretty clear. Here is what my dream customer actually values. Color. Not just as decoration, but as expression. Creativity, without rules or judgment. Confidence, built gently, not forced. and community, feeling seen, supported, and connected. She isn't looking for perfection. She's looking for permission. Permission to be bold, permission to be playful, permission to be herself. And when I speak to her, everything changes. Content feels more natural. Selling feels more like inviting. And showing up doesn't feel like a performance. All right, so let's talk about why trying to reach everyone never works. This is something I've learned the hard way. When you're building a business, it's really easy to think, well, I don't want to limit myself. You don't want to leave anyone out. You don't want to pick wrong. You don't want to box yourself in. So you keep things broad. You talk to everyone, or at least you try to. But what usually happens is this weird disconnect where your message kind of feels flat. Not wrong, just it's not landing. And it's not because people aren't paying attention. It's because no one feels like you're actually talking to them. I've been there. When I don't have a clear picture of who I'm creating for, I can feel it in my content. I over-explain, I second-guess my wording, and I tweak things to death. And the energy, it just isn't the same. But when I'm clear on my dream customer, on my person, when I'm thinking about a real human I've actually interacted with, everything feels easier. The words come out more naturally. I don't feel like I'm performing. I feel like I'm having a conversation. That's what dream customer clarity really does. It's not about excluding people. It's not about saying, this isn't for you. It's about giving your work somewhere to land. Because when someone reads your words or hears you talk and thinks, oh, this feels like me, that's when connection happens. So here's the part that doesn't get talked about enough. Knowing your dream customer isn't enough on its own. It still has to fit inside your real life. For me, this showed up in how I was structuring my days. I thought productivity told a story. Perfect content plans, posting schedules, no gaps, no pauses. But real life didn't work that way. I would overplan, life would happen, and instead of adjusting, I'd disappear and then have to start all over again. That cycle wasn't a discipline problem. It was a misalignment problem. My business structure didn't support my energy or my values. And once I recentered my dream customer, I could finally ask better questions, like, what kind of experiences do I actually want to create? What kind of visibility feels sustainable? And what kind of work energizes me instead of draining me? Here's what surprised me once I really started getting clear on who I was creating for. Decision-making stopped feeling so heavy. Before, every choice felt personal. Every post, every product, every launch idea. I'd spiral into questions like, is this the right thing? Is anyone going to care? Am I doing enough? But when I had a real person in mind, not an imaginary audience, not everyone, something shifted. Instead of wondering if something would get more reach or perform better, I started asking myself, would this matter to the people I actually care about serving? And that question felt grounding instead of stressful. It changed how I looked at my inventory. I stopped feeling like everything had to stay forever. It changed how I approached my content. I didn't feel like I had to explain myself to the entire internet. It changed how I thought about in-person experiences. I leaned into the parts that felt meaningful instead of just profitable. And honestly, it even changed how I define success. Not in a big, dramatic, overnight way, but in a quieter, more honest one. Things didn't suddenly become easy, but they stopped feeling forced. And for me, that's where sustainability actually started. Before we wrap up, I want to give you a few simple questions to sit with this week. You don't need to answer all of them at once. You don't need perfect clarity. Just notice what comes up. First, think about a moment in your business that felt genuinely good. Not the most profitable, not the most impressive, but the most aligned. Who was involved in that moment? What were they doing? How were they responding to you or your work? And how did you feel in your body while it was happening? Next, think about people who light you up when you interact with them. The customers who ask thoughtful questions, the ones who get excited, the ones who get it without you over-explaining. What do they value? What do they come to you for, emotionally, not just practically? And finally, ask yourself this honestly. If I could only create for one type of person this year, who would I want that to be? Not who feels safest, not who seems most profitable on paper, but who feels most aligned with the reason I started in the first place. You don't need to label her yet. You don't need demographics. You're just looking for patterns. Because your dream customer usually isn't a stranger. She's someone you've already met. If this episode stirred something up for you, if you realized your business feels disconnected from the people you want to serve, that doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It means you're paying attention. Your dream customer isn't something you have to invent. She's already shown up in your business through conversations, moments, and experiences that felt right. In the next episode, we'll talk about how this clarity connects directly to your brand and your niche without boxing yourself in. Until next time, keep showing up with heart, keep trusting yourself, and keep shining.